Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to another edition of BTS at Fortune India. What goes on behind the scenes with all the brilliant minds here at Fortune India? I'm joined by two of them, Ajita and Keshav.
Hi.
My dear colleagues, good to have you here in person, not on Zoom. It's always more fun in person.
Absolutely.
But this one's a special one, and I say this as a mixed bag of feelings, guys, because this is a special edition that's going to go out on stands. And then, being under 40, it's always been a dream to be on a 40 under 40 list. And I'm working with you guys, and you realize I'm a long way off, firstly, because of the level of success and how illustrious this list is. You've put together a 40 under 40 list. Ajita, tell me, let's start off with how this came about, because these are some of the brightest minds in the country. How do all of us, young, aspiring 40 under 40 fellows out there, ever dream of coming on this list?
So we get them to do a lot of hard work and they keep complaining. So we have this very, very exhaustive process wherein, we ask them to fill a form and we ask them all kinds of questions on that.
Yeah.
And they really crib, and many of them ask for deadline extensions because it's that exhaustive. And we start from there. And then after that, this time I think we got over 200 nominations. And after that, the Fortune team we all sat together, we discussed, and we crunched it to about 100. And after that, other list of 100 was given to the jury, and we had a power pack jury this time, which was from multi-sectors. We had FMCG, we had conglomerates, we had a lawyer, we had two private equity individuals, and it was quite a power pack jury this time.
Yeah.
And then the jury kind of shortlisted the 40, and that's how it... and there was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of debate on many of the profiles. And
No, you said a diverse jury gave us a diverse list. A 40 under 40 list, Keshav. We have some of the most brilliant minds, like I said, from across sectors. Now, she's given us a sneak peek into the real behind the scenes process. But tell us more about, I remember being in some of those meetings with you as well, and there was so many discussions, deliberations. But that list, it's diverse, as always this time.
Yeah, that is the diversity factor in the true sense of diverse. Being diverse has always been the thing with Fortune's 40 under 40. But we have a healthy mix of next gen from legacy, as been, in fact, we had overwhelming names coming from the next gen of legacy companies. But we have tried to create, at least the jury has tried to create a balance between the two. So you have wannabes, first gen guys who are, on their own startups in different spheres, in different segments. So it's quite a healthy mix. I mean, you can say that it covers the canvas of the entire landscape that India is.
It's interesting, you talk about legacy and some of these rising stars, and there's so many stories within India itself, and then some of the Indians going abroad, many of them coming back now to India to set up top startups here as well, and we've covered some of those across the Fortune universe. But what's interesting is there's more stories in this edition, Ajita, especially the one about a multi-generational workforce. This is a social media meme which needed to be dissected and analyzed. Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the iPad generation. I mean, there's so much happening. But now as the youngest, and that keeps changing every minute I say this, enter the workforce, there's differences. I remember doing a podcast, during the lockdown where a top tech company was having issues with millennial managers connecting with their Gen Z associates. Is that something that you've also found through the course of the story, that connection needs to be made?
what really excited me was there's this term called perennials, which is for people like us who are Gen Xers. And the perennials are the ones who want to learn, who are tech savvy, who want to do, contemporary things. And so you have those kind of people in the workforce who are always wanting to learn. So somewhere down the line, there's a FOMO in that segment because it's a fear of missing out, fear of losing out. So they actually overdo themselves in contemporizing themselves. So they are actually ahead of the curve when it comes to learning. And Gen Zs actually, they are all about short form content, and their attention spans are lower. So the way companies are communicating with these generations is also different. So a Gen Xer would want physical presence, wants to interact with people in person. The Gen Zs or the millennials, not necessarily. They're happy doing it on emails. So a lot of those kind of nuances came up. a lot of people said that, how shades of gray is equally important because, there was, in between, there was this conversation that everybody would, having a young workforce is what is the need of the hour. But in times like the way today that, it's very important to have shades of gray, a little bit of maturity because we are living in a disruptive world. So how do we kind of, overcome these disruptions?
Yeah.
So a bit of maturity, bit of shade of gray is as important as having young blood.
It's interesting. By the way, Ajita has officially is cool like a perennial across all generations because she used FOMO in her answer, Keshav. So that already gives her brownie points with Gen Z, Gen X, millennial.
I call myself a perennial.
That's kind of cool. That's going to be cool. I might be changing my Instagram profile with Ajita's inputs there. But Keshav, it's interesting, right? Every generation has these narratives. And then at the end of it, be it in business, be it in pop culture, be it on social media content, have a lot of us having the attention span of a goldfish, and that's true because we're so distracted.
True.
There is something to learn even in terms of business when we're talking about some of those legacy businesses and the next generation coming up from each generation. I'd imagine that's one of the takeaways from research in such a story.
Yes, it has been. The thing about next gen is that, it's not everyone wants to set up a family office.
Correct.
Quite a few of the names that we have profiled in the issue, they are running the businesses. So, you had in between a comment made by Udar Kotak where he said that, a lot of next gen wants to move out and run family offices.
Yeah.
Thankfully, at least the names that we have profiled are all running businesses.
Interesting.
Getting their hands dirty. And that's something interesting too.
And another thing that's changing as consumption patterns change and so much changes across generations is how we millennials and Gen Z look at money, saving money, getting a credit card, financial advice, mutual funds, how we approach banking and finance altogether, Keshav. And I think when you talk about banking, there's a bunch of accounts now all over social media telling you which credit card to have, which bank to bank with. And there's obviously the Indian banks and then there's the foreign banks. But there's always a perception with the foreign banks saying, how long will they be here? Will the business model change? Will the brand change altogether? We've seen a plethora of changes over the last 15 years. HSBC stands out basis your story. Why so?
So it's an interesting point that you raised because taking out from FOMO, the foreign banks always fear that they are missing out something, but they never had a cohesive India strategy. That is why I called it as the hit and run strategy. You want to enter, you spend some time, and then you kind of, fold back some of your businesses. And that's happened for quite a few names in India. In the case of HSBC, it's the oldest foreign bank in India. It has never been up there, but it has slowly and steadily stayed the course. And now under the new CEO, which is Hitendra Dave, who has taken over since 2021, HSBC has done the hard grind. And maybe the years of staying put has kind of shown up in the numbers. It today is the foreign bank with the largest total assets.
Yes.
Its return ratios have improved. But more importantly, there is a strategy. And that strategy is to piggy ride the wealth boom that India is seeing. The affluent Indians. That is where HSBC has found its sweet spot. And that's what the story says about how that whole engine of growth is coming together for HSBC. And that's what the story is about. I cannot reveal much more than that.
Keshav has very smartly just given us a trailer, a sneak peek. He's told us a little bit in terms of what was the genesis behind that story. But he wants us to do what everyone should be doing, which is picking up Fortune India.
Yes.
All the stands on Magster, and of course on our website and socials, we have a lot of multimedia coverage. This is a really cool Fortune India that we love working on every month with the issue. And then, of course, with all the IPs and events that we're doing, you should stay tuned. And then social media, every day, every minute, there's an update. Another update that's required, whether people are talking about Kolhapuri chappals now, on international runways, or even tech brands trying to approach everything from a lifestyle or a fashion lens. I know that there was a very interesting, colorful story that you wrote on fashion and how things have changed with, certain winds of change and acquisitions and things happening in the Indian fashion lifestyle space. Tell us more about that story, Ajita.
Yeah, so it's basically the Indian designer labels. So a Manish Malhotra, a Sabyasachi, a Shantanu and Nikhil.
Basically all the stuff out of my budget. Yeah.
No, but I want to ask you, you were in the wedding market recently.
Yes.
So you must have bought a sherwani or a bangala or whatever. And for that, maybe you would have gone to a Indian designer.
Yeah.
But the moment it comes to buying a lifestyle, maybe a regular outfit which you would wear to work, or you would wear for a social evening, or an evening dress, that gown that your wife would wear for a social evening, you may not be buying it from any of these Indian designers. They may not be top of the mind for you, and that is where they are losing it, because Indian designers are all about ceremonial. So now and if you're just focused on one vertical, you cannot grow, you cannot scale up. And now most of these brands have either got acquired by Reliance, or they have got acquired by Aditya Birla.
Yes.
And that is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to build a house of brands, a house of fashion, as they call it, maison.
Is that a good thing, Ajita? I mean, you talk about consolidation in so many sectors. Is that a good thing for two players to be taking all of these up, making sure their retail spaces are within their malls, within their property? Is that a good thing for innovation and for younger, more aspiring designers?
So what the designers are saying, that while these conglomerates are taking care of their supply chain, have helped them put up practices in place. Like none of them, they were all like a mom and pop shop, and they would at the most have a few designers in their territory. But now they have a proper HR team, they have a finance team. So the back end is completely sourcing, everything is being taken care of by these conglomerates. And they are saying that they are able to focus on building beautiful brands. And they are all looking like, if I were to give you an example of Shantanu and Nikhil. So they have their couture brand, which is like everything is above 50 lakh. But they've also come up with SNN, which is their Pret line. And there they have shirts, they have an entire cricket range. They call it SNCC. They have and it's not active sportswear, it's lifestyle wear. So here they are competing with Ralph Lauren. So they are trying to give the Indian consumers a variety of options, so that they don't necessarily need to go and buy a global brand. And what I really found interesting is, I thought, since all of them have got acquired and by conglomerates, they'll make an appearance more frequently at the global fashion shows, and they would go global. But that really is not the intent. None of them have global aspirations as of now. They want to first penetrate into India, build their brands in India, and then probably look out.
Now, since you did mention some of these interesting brands, I will also give you a behind the scenes into millennial, Gen Z, since we're talking about all of the multi-generational workforce and whatnot. We don't actually, most of us on social media don't pay for any of these brands. We do, we give them a shout out on social media, and we hope to wear that brand for a day and then give it back to them dry cleaned. That's how we are saving money and going to the banks that Kesha's talking about as well. That's the business model. That's what we're talking about here at Fortune India. What a pleasure, guys. This is actually, from all the months that I've been here, one of the most diverse set of topics, and actually very interesting for all the generations out here, because there's something for everyone. I think all of you all tuned in must get your copy of Fortune India. Keshav, Ajita, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Ayush.
And of course, stay tuned to our social media and our website, and I'll see you in the next one.